Welcome, everyone. This is my pro-industry interview with Daniel Pazos, or Pazos, like I would say, from Spain.
Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh. So, this is Leslie Kristen, and I am so proud. I'm going to call you a friend, even though we really haven't been like close, but we've worked together a couple of times.
Absolutely.
And Daniel lives in Fort Lauderdale, and he is an unbelievable makeup artist. And I wanted to interview him because I adore his work, and it's gorgeous. You are a fashion and editorial makeup artist, and it's just, I wanted to, well, before I get into it, because I always wanted to be an editorial makeup artist, but I ended up working more in film. And so you get to do pretty much a lot of the stuff that I had always dreamed about doing. And, you know, living in South Florida, I think that there's definitely a lot of opportunity for that too. But I wanted to read a little bit of your bio because, you know, Daniel has, so it seems like you started, which, you know, we'll talk about that, of course, in 98, and kind of like as an artist for a lot of different cosmetic brands.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then like your editorial list is Vogue Russia, Elle Serbia, Elle for Czech Republic, Elle for Germany, Glamour for India, Glamour for Bulgaria. Are you guys like drooling? Do you want this resume? Playboy magazine, we'll have to talk about that. Conde Nast Traveler, fabulous. I mean, just it goes on and on and on. And then, of course, you have Women's Golf Journal. That's where we met. We're
Yes.
on
Yes.
on Paula Kramer. Yes. And
we also worked on Annika Sorensen.
That's right. Yes, we did.
Sorensen.
Yes, we did both of them together. And I was makeup and he was hair, but Daniel is both, which I definitely, even though I'm licensed to do hair, please don't hire me for that. I just won't. I am not the one for you. I love this. You've done Ted Baker, one of my favorite. I love Ted Baker.
Yeah, that was.
Yes. House of Fraser. I mean, you've got so many Etienne Agne, or Agner, as they would say in the States. You've done like Keratin Complex, hair things as well. So you've kind of had like the combination of all different. You've done Miami Swim Week and New York Fashion Week. So you've done like lots and lots of stuff. I know you've been in the business for a long time, and so I wanted to, you know, I just wanted to have you share with us a bit of your journey, kind of how you got started doing makeup, and you know, what took you there.
Okay, so when I was around 23 years old, I think, up to that point, I had only worked in music stores because I knew that I loved music. So, you know, I was out of high school. I was working in predominantly, I would say, like little retail things, retail jobs. And I worked selling, you know, music, like CDs. I was, you know, let's say that was what interested me or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Then when I was about, I kind of found myself paying attention to runway shows on TV sometimes and noticing the really cool makeup. And then I was noticing like the covers of magazines before celebrities took over. There was still like the really cool edgy makeup that they would have on the covers of magazines. And I remember I started paying attention to that, and I was thinking I could always draw. I was a good artist, you know? And I was like, I wonder if I could learn how to do that. I wonder if I could learn how to do makeup. This looks like it's really cool, you know? Just, and I feel like that's something that a lot of makeup artists have in common, is that there's like this organic sense of admiring beauty.
Yes.
And then you realize, why don't I do something about it? Why don't I see where this could take me? So I think for me, I started in the retail, which is a way a lot of people start in this business. I started in retail, and I was the only guy behind the counter at a Lancome counter. And I remember I was like nervous as hell first, you know, first week or 2 weeks, and it was kind of weird, but I got over it, and I kept learning, and I was passionate about it. And I think like the women, even that when I started, could see that I really, really love this.
Oh,
You know?
and women will buy anything from a man.
Right. I did
Sure,
have those.
your
Yeah, I
sales
did
were
have,
probably far better than others.
yeah. I mean, this is back in, like you said, 1998, and I worked for Lancome. That was my first makeup line, and I would get excited when all the national makeup artists were coming into the store, and I would watch them do makeup, and we were just helping them out, and we would be selling behind the counter. But I wanted to be in their position. I wanted to be the one that was, working on, there was the customers, but it was just like so cool, like I'm watching all this makeup, and it was just like great, so it was amazing.
Mm-hmm. That's so fun. So
And
then,
then, go ahead. All right,
no, I was
no,
going
go
to
ahead.
say, so you went from retail, and then what was your next step after that?
Right. So what happens in this business is that nobody really tells you how to get into it. So I worked for Lancome for a couple of years, and I worked for MAC Cosmetics. Kind of jumped the gun. I did a little bit of Bobbi Brown Cosmetics too for a while. Then I went to work for MAC. And then when I worked for MAC, there was a model that was buying makeup from me one day behind the counter, and she was beautiful. And I remember like telling her, "You're a model, right? You're so gorgeous, whatever." Because I was not used to seeing like these, beautiful Amazonian, girls, because that's what separates how we say real people and models, right? They just look different. They're different. That's why they're models. And I remember just being like, like blown away. And she's like, "Yeah, actually, I am a model, and I'm with this, agency in Fort Lauderdale, blah, 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 whatever." So I was like, "Oh, well, if you ever need a makeup artist, I would love," and I didn't even want any money. I just wanted to be able to work with her because she was just so pretty. And I was like, why don't I, that would be such a cool thing to do. So we exchanged numbers after she bought some products. And then I think she called me maybe like 2 weeks later or something and said, "Listen, I have a photo shoot and I need a makeup artist. I don't think there's a budget for this one, but if you're interested in doing it, I would love to have you come on board." So that was my very, very first test. Yeah, and that was back before it was digital. That was film. So your makeup had to be perfect. Yes. I mean, it was like, we were still using lip liner on a lot of people back then, because now the industry has gotten away from, everything became more natural. And but back when it was film, you had to do everything perfectly because it was not going to be retouched. So
and there weren't all those filters. I mean, there were filters, but it was, it was different.
Yeah. So I went there. I ended up doing her makeup, very natural makeup, very clean. We're in Florida, South Florida. People have to remember that. And commercial agencies for models, these modeling agencies, and even as far as us we're concerned, makeup and hair has to be done in a very natural way. Okay. We'll talk about that, I guess as we go further into it. But I ended up doing her makeup that day, and a male model. I just powdered him and put maybe like a little bit of concealer underneath his eyes. And it was just fun. And I got pictures out of it. I mean, they weren't in my book for very long, but at least it was something, my first step towards doing this.
Yeah.
And then after I worked with a couple of photographers, I kind of figured out that you have to assist in this business. And that's how you really get your foot in. You have to assist other makeup artists that are established, who've been there, who've done things. And that's really the way that I kind of got in eventually, but it took me a long time to even assist. I mean, I was doing makeup for like over 10 years before I even started assisting. So, I mean, it was like, that's how much this business, I think now less. Now you can get into this business way easier by ways of Instagram and social media. That didn't exist when I started doing makeup. Right. So that's what's changed in this business, for sure, is that, So go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that the market is very different, and there's just there are jobs that didn't exist before. But I still think that to make it, and kind of like you're saying, there is there's, you know, all of these, especially like the, you know, the Pat McGraths and the, you know, the, like we were talking about, like the Kevin O'Quan, like they've all gone through the steps, you know. It's not just,
Yeah.
oh my God, I've got 3 million followers and all of a sudden I'm somebody. It's
Correct. It's changed completely. Yeah. Yeah, definitely now it's like, especially if you are what are they called? I mean, not just a blogger, but a makeup enthusiast.
Yeah, an influencer
that applies makeup, right? Or influencer, and you put makeup on yourself the whole time, which some of those people are super talented. In the beginning, when it first happened, I kind of didn't get it. I didn't get what they were doing and what it was all about. But I understood that it was part of the whole YouTube generation of people coming into the industry and learning that way. But yeah, definitely, it was anything, you know, you had no followers back then. You basically had to pave the pavement or whatever, and get your portfolio going. And then that's how you were recognized as a makeup artist. It wasn't because you were on social media. It wasn't because you could do all these different looks on yourself and gain followers that way. I mean, it's completely different. So in a way, they have it a lot. I don't know if I should say it's a lot easier, but it's so different. But I think that you can definitely get more instant exposure nowadays, where you couldn't do that. You couldn't do that back then. So it's so different.
It is how you get hired, and even I think the desire, and we had spoken about this before a little bit. You know, I think it's kind of twofold, and I think a lot of, you know, a lot of the younger ones, they want to go from here to here just
Right.
fast without building the skill. And you know, you don't know what you don't know. If you can't see, like you were saying, you know, even if it's a clean, beautiful, and I'll show your Instagram page in a little bit, but the amount of work that's required to have a detailed eye versus putting a whole bunch of layers of crap and then putting filters over it.
Oh, I hate that. Yeah.
That's not a skilled makeup artist.
No, I don't like the whole filter thing, and that's a whole nother topic. Yeah.
And that's something that, you know, in this Insta world, they don't necessarily know. I see that a lot, you know. It's like you still have to, it's amazing. And like you said, you know, you worked with that model and you did that, and it didn't stay in your portfolio for a long time because you started to see like, oh yeah, you know, and that's what you do. You're constantly like taking things out of your portfolio. So that it's funny, but that's part of, you know, growing as an artist, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, the whole Instagram thing, I mean, I have like a love-hate relationship with Instagram. I'm not going to lie. I'm not the best of always putting behind the scenes. I kind of just post what I want to post. I don't do it because I'm trying to appease a certain audience. I don't care about that. I think that it's really important to post what you want to post, what you're proud of, what you think is beautiful. And I also think that some people fall into the category or the mistake of thinking that they have to have a lot of followers in order to be taken seriously. And then they kind of lose their, you know, again, I'm not passing judgment, but I'm not one for buying tons of followers for your page because you think that you're going to get more followers that way. I don't think that's the way it should be done. I think that you should organically grow your Instagram just like you would do your own business. By slowly posting things and using a lot of hashtags. And that's how, and you know, when I first started, I barely had any. Not that I have so many, but you know, I think I have like a little over 3,000 or something like that. I don't have like a whole lot because I don't post every day anyway. And I don't do a million hashtags. I only post with, you know, do the kind of hashtags that I think are relevant to what I'm posting and my page. But that's like what I think we should talk about too is, you know, you should be real in your content. It should reflect who you are, and don't be so quick to think you have to buy, you know, 20,000 followers or, you know, all this stuff and that you're going to get instant fame or instant work. It doesn't work that way. Put the work into it, and then you're going to reap what you sow when you put the work into it. That's how I mean, that's my philosophy. I'm not I'm not knocking anybody if they want to buy followers. I mean, you know, that's your thing. It's cool. But, you know, took me 6 years to get the amount of followers I have now being on Instagram. But you know what? I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that I know that all those people hit follow because they wanted to, not because I bought them or I told them to. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but again, you know, some of these big people, these big brand artists and all that kind of stuff, they have a lot of pressure also to have a lot of followers. So I know that sometimes there's times where they buy followers. I know that. And they have the bots, like the things that go and follow other people's accounts. There's a lot of that going on. I mean, I don't fall into that category, and that's why I have a substantial amount. I don't have like a crazy amount of followers because that's just not my, you know, my thing.
Well, it's a part or full-time job to be on social media. That's for sure. And I think that when you're busy working, making a living at doing makeup, you don't have time to be posting 7 on social media.
And us old school people that have been doing this for a while, I'm so concerned about being on set and doing a good job that I don't want to be on my phone. And sometimes the clients will give those artists a look like, what are you doing? Like, get off your phone. Because you're supposed to pay attention to your job and look at the monitor and make sure the makeup is right, make sure the hair is right. You know, you can't be on your phone.
They're paying you for. They're paying you for that.
Yeah, it's unprofessional. If you're I get it. A lot of these celebrity makeup artists and those people, it's all about the experience and the glam and this and that, and that's a whole nother category. But the regular, you know, because even though I've done celebrities and I've sent you the list, I believe, I think we talked about it. But I mean, I've done them, but if I don't do celebrities every single day on a regular basis, I'm not going to call myself a celebrity makeup artist. I don't think that that's the proper, you know, I mean, yeah, you've done celebrities. You can put that on your resume. That's great. But I wouldn't go ahead and say I'm a celebrity makeup artist just because I've done 1 celebrity or 2 celebrities.
Right.
I mean, that's just, you know.
And there's so many different avenues, you know, like there's celebrities within music, there's celebrities within models, there's celebrity within you know, film, there's celebrities with, you know, and then you really start to kind of get into your niche as well. Just like, you know, just like you said, between working at Lancôme, Mac, and then Bobbi Brown and Laura Mercier, those are 4 completely different brands and philosophies and culture.
Yeah.
Right?
And you know, you soak it all in like a sponge, and you take what you want from each, you know, from each brand. But I would tell people that retail, for me, I mean, it's changed now. I know it's not the same retail environment that it was 20 years ago when I was working in it, but I would tell them that it's a really cool thing to be able to get in, to start touching people's faces and get used to, you know, if you go to makeup school, that's awesome. If you can get to that too, that's great. And people just go to makeup school, they don't even go into the retail route. But that was my route, and I'm proud of it. And I think that I got to work with real women and see like how to make real women look beautiful first before I started doing models. Because models, you're going to have different things that you can do on them. You can do almost anything, but the majority of the jobs that I've worked on, these commercial print jobs or advertising, the least you can put on them for the camera, they love you. It's very seldom that it goes the other way around, unless it's bridal, like a bridal brand, and it's more makeup. And again, that depends on the lighting. It depends on what kind of light they're going to use that shows the makeup. So all that stuff depends. But the majority of the time, if you can keep her looking beautiful as she walked in and enhance her a little bit and not go crazy with the foundation and not make her look, you know, go overboard on it, they'll love you. That's the majority of the jobs.
Well, the jobs that you and I worked on, actually, because that was a golf magazine, I mean, they hired me because that's my style, not because I do a whole bunch of like over the top kind of makeup. And so that, now if it were, you know, I'm not a Mac makeup artist. I never worked at Mac. I'm not, you know, that's definitely much more of a theater. And it's funny because a lot of makeup artists that started there and then went into editorial, they had to retrain themselves once they got an agent.
See, the difference Yeah, the difference with me was, okay, so like, that's a thing that, okay, so Mac's reputation, it's funny to me because Mac's reputation is because of their advertising, that they're so avant-garde and they had bold colors and all that. But that's really depends on where you started with them and what market, because the market that I worked in Aventura Mall, which is like the suburb.
Mm-hmm.
So the people that we got wanted natural makeup. Nobody ever wanted, like back then, like, you know, dark black eyeliner all around their eye. We never got that. And like, they got that years later as the community grew and the mall grew. But I was doing natural makeup at MAC, but the thing was that I had that skincare background from Lancome first. So I remember like a lot of the makeup artists when I was working with them, they were super talented. I mean, there was some sick people that I worked with in the beginning, but they were like noticing that I was taking time to put like the cream on and all that stuff. And I was working with the skin. They're like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I love prepping the skin first before I put the foundation on. And, you know, and I remember like to them, they were just so used to just doing color and they would like just smack on the studio fix or whatever. And like, yeah, they would like do like these insane eyes, like bold, beautiful makeup. But then when it came to the skin, that was where they, like you said, they had to retrain themselves on how to do proper skin and all that kind of stuff.
Well, so, a lot of times, you know, I mean, I remember when Mac started, like we would order Mac on the phone from Canada when I was working in film. That's how old I am. You know? Yeah, like it was owned by the two Franks. You would you would buy it on the phone.
It was such a magical, it was so different back then. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you know, it was really like it, you know, RuPaul was the first spokesperson for Mac. So, you know, a lot of times it was like covering up beards and you know, it came from that era of very almost theatrical. And coming from film, I never used MAC foundations. I always liked their lipsticks and eyeshadows, but their foundations, because of film, it wasn't video, it was film, you wanted skin to look beautiful, and you especially didn't want, like, you could see that on a massive screen, all of these layers of foundation. So
a lot of the artists weren't trained on doing, like, they knew color theory, but they didn't always, you know, they were just so like into studio fix. Like, even though they had foundations that they could pass for skin if applied the right way, like the matte foundation and the satin foundation, but unfortunately they were known, like you said, for the heavier, like the full coverage and the MAC stores and then the studio fix. So yeah, a lot of their artists could just, amazingly talented artists, but the skin was not really focused back then. Now I think they have an effort to do that more, but back then, yeah, it was.
Probably, yes. So it's so interesting. There's just so many avenues and so many, you know, places. So I want to hear, so when did you kind of transition like full time into doing, and how did you decide on Editorial? Did you just kind of like fall in love with it, or how did that?
Yeah. I mean, I think the Editorial never, like, it doesn't go away. Like, you're always trying to do more and more, and you know, because you just love doing them all the time. For a while I did them back to back for, like, I'd say a good 4 or 5 years. That's all I did was back to back Editorial. That's why I did so many. But then I kind of tapered off. I wasn't doing editorials as much. I think that you go through little lulls and you know what I mean? But so I think I was like you, where I was like, I really want to do this. I'm looking at magazines and I'm like, this is so cool. I want to do this kind of makeup. So I think what eventually happened was I started calling modeling agencies and asking if I could test with their models. And then so I started testing with more models, started putting more things in my book. Again, not being given any advice of how to guide my career, doing this all on my own, not really, and wasting a lot of money putting images in my book that I thought were supposed to sell me as a makeup artist, and not really understanding what really needs to be put in your portfolio, not what I was putting in it. So I spent a lot of my own money because I didn't have an agent yet. I didn't have anybody directing, giving me advice on my career. I didn't have anybody like that. So I was kind of just from the seat of my pants, just saying, oh, this just looks great. They're going to love this. Let me put this in my book. Let me do. And that's not the way the business works. Like, they have an eye. They know what they're looking for. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's so important to have the right models in your book. I mean, you know, the models have changed drastically now with Instagram. There's a lot of different, which is good. I'm all for inclusion. There's all kinds of models now, not just from ethnicities, but we have like a lot more plus size models we're using in the industry, which I think is awesome. The trend of shorter girls, that's still going on, you know, like girls don't have to be 5'10" anymore, like, you know, a long time ago. So there's been a lot of inclusion in the industry, which I think is great. But back then, when I first started, they were like, why is this girl on your card? Why do you have this in your book? And I'd be like, oh, because the makeup. I'm like, they're like, no, it doesn't matter how good the makeup is. You need to have the right model. So yeah, so that's how I learned, like, okay, well, I need to start taking this to another level. So then as I was testing, I became closer with the photographers. Photographers liked me. They made me work for free in the beginning. I didn't get paid right away. I think I did I had to work with the photographer like 3 or 4 times before they finally started agreeing to pay me, because, they just were trying to say, oh, you need experience. They knew that those pictures were going in the model's book and on her comp card. So if they're good enough to go in her comp card and in her book, I'm good enough to get paid. So that was, it's funny. That's how people,
right?
Yeah. So it was kind of frustrating in the beginning, because I was like, I wanted to start getting, you love it and you want to do it so badly that you don't even think about making money out, because you're young. When you're young, you don't think about that stuff. And that was me too. I was like, I want to do this so badly that I don't care if I get paid. And then you realize, if I want to pay my rent and I want to pay my bills, yeah, this is a business. And then you realize that it's art and commerce. So that's what people have to understand. The beauty business is art and commerce. So that's when, I started getting paid, did a lot of paid tests for like years. I would just do paid tests. I mean, I can't even tell you how many model tests I've done. I mean, hundreds of model tests where, there'd be a new girl coming to the agency and she needed all brand new shots. And I would, and the thing was that they didn't want to pay 2 people. So everybody kept telling me, why don't you do hair? Just do hair, Daniel. And so I found myself in a position where everybody kept asking me, and I was afraid that if I just did hair on my own and didn't get licensed for it, what if something happened and I couldn't do this anymore, and I wanted to have something to fall back on in case I wanted to work in a salon or I wanted to do whatever. So I took it upon myself to go to beauty school. Yeah. And so I got licensed for beauty school. And again, and I did kind of do that in people wanting me to do both. I'll be honest. That's why I did the hair. But
you're more viable, you're more viable. They're going to hire you way before they'll hire just, 2 people, because it's a double budget.
Yeah. People don't seem to understand that there's a budget on jobs, and sometimes the client is awesome and they'll say, like, you know what, well, you're going to do the makeup. We'll have you as a makeup artist. We'll hire somebody else for hair. But sometimes they'll be like, can you do both? Because we don't want to pay. This is our budget, and we don't want to pay somebody else to come and do, we want to pay you to do both things. Mm-hmm. That's how it is sometimes. Mm-hmm. And if you want to work and you want to eat, you got to make that decision. Am I willing to do that? So I think that's what happened to me. But then I started liking hair. I like it. I think my passion for makeup is stronger, but hair is art as well. So, I mean, I like hair also, but if I had to choose one, yeah, I'd probably just try to continue being a better makeup artist. I'm not going to lie, so.
Yeah. Well, and that's, like in the road that I took, where when you have to join the union, because I went down more of the road of working on, film and television and whatnot. Once you join the union, you have to choose. You can't do both anymore. So
right. That's the difference with television. Yeah.
So, and a lot of times people that like to do both, they may choose, oh, okay, well, I mean, there seem to be more makeup artists and hairstylists. I mean, hair for film is not easy, because you have to know.
Oh, no, you have to know. Yeah.
Big. It's there.
And even editorial hair, even though I can do some editorial hair, because a lot of it is about just kind of putting texture in the hair, a certain type of texture, and sometimes it's a little bit of an easier, looser feel. That's the difference between, like, let's say editorial hair versus real hair. like real women hair.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's like that level of editorial hair where, like you said, it's like you need to know how to, like, you know, almost like construct a wig on your own, and like, you know, and that's where, like, I can do a wig, you know, I can put a wig on somebody, I can cut a wig, I can dye a wig, I can do all that stuff, and I've done it for shoots. But when it comes to like creating the wig or, you know, all that, I don't do that. You know what I mean? So there's a limit to where I'm gonna go. You know what I mean? And, you know, I'm okay with finger waves, but I'm not like the best. So like if it, like, let's say the shoot was all flappers, you know, like people, you know, I would have a hard time. I would need somebody strong in hair to help me also, because that wouldn't be my shoots. You know, I've done a little couple things here and there with period hair, but, you know, I'm not an expert on finger waves,
Yeah.
you know? So it just, you know, it's you know, there's a limit to what you can bring, and it's important for you to tell your agency or whoever's hiring you what you can and can't do, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're like, oh yeah, I can do this, and then you show up and you suck, and then they never want to hire you again.
Absolutely. You know? Yes. Yeah. I and a lot of times, you know, because there is a particular budget, and, you know, they had called me to, it was this amazing, it would have been a great opportunity, you know, had I been a lot younger and really, you know, didn't have my company and whatnot. But it was great. It was like doing weddings, and they would take you on all these cruises, and you go to Paris, and you go to, you know, these, but I was like, you know, I am not your updo bridal girl. Like, if I can do makeup, I can handle all kinds of, you know, talents, difficult, you know.
You know what it is too, also? Yeah, no, but see, same, I feel the same way. Like, I can do an updo, I've done them, but I feel like if it's not executed with the same amount of diligence as I would take with a makeup, then I don't want to do it. I really honestly feel that way, because I've seen people that do both for weddings, and I'm, you know, of course I'm never going to mention no names, but I see the work, the pictures, you know, like when I follow people that do wedding hair on Instagram, they say they do both, and I can tell that the work suffers when they're doing both sometimes, because either they're rushed or they're doing too many people, you know, on the occasion, and I see the quality not really living up for one or the other. And that's why I don't want to, you know, that's why I'm like, if I do an updo or I do that for a wedding, I might do maybe like one or two people at the most, where I do both things, and then maybe do more makeup for the wedding. I don't want to do something that I'm not going to feel I'm executing in the best way, and that's going to be a representation of my work. That's just the way I feel about it.
Yes, and I agree with you 100%, because I'm the same way. I want to do what I know I do well, and it's I don't want to sell myself, even though somebody may really want you to do it.
Yeah.
I'm doing them a disservice. So a lot of times, and, you know, for those of you that are listening to this, because there are the other side that it's like, oh, I can do this and I can do that and I can do, you know, and half of it sucks, if not all of it. and you really want to be careful, because you want to think of longevity in your business, not the cash that you're going to get at the end of the job. And I
right,
so
right. Quality. There, you have to think about quality. You have to think about
your standard, your reputation.
If you're marketing yourself, be careful how you market yourself, because it's like, am I a editorial artist? Am I this? Am I that? Or am I just a wedding? Not just a wedding. Am I a wedding makeup artist or hairstylist?
Mm-hmm.
But really think about it, because people are going to pay attention to what you're telling them that you are, and they're going to be looking at the work, and everybody scrutinizes. Everybody looks at things and looks for the imperfections or the perfection. We all do that, you know? So, well, I mean,
especially now, I mean, you know, you have pictures and all you do is go, and that's what I do. Exactly. I just open that up and I look at everything, and especially, you know, and because bridal's difficult, like, especially the style of having, you know, and again, I'm kind of going a little off topic, but, you know, when you hire somebody to do kind of like these pseudo disheveled, you know, beautiful, loosey hairstyles, and it falls apart in 10
Exactly.
minutes.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yes.
You could try to make it look that way, but if it's not gonna hold, then you didn't do it right. And I'm guilty of that. I've done that. I've done people's hair where I'm like, I got this, and I go in with my pins and I do it, and it's like, oh my God, this looks amazing. I take a picture of it, and then they tell me later on, well, it was beautiful, but it didn't really hold that well. I had to keep fixing it, and I don't want to hear that. I'm like, oh great, that sucks. So yeah, I need to get better at what I do, but that's why I might not do something that I don't feel uncomfortable with, in the first place. And you shouldn't be afraid to say that.
Right. And if anything, the bridal business is all about referral. I mean, it's so huge. So it's like, oh my God, yeah, I looked great, but then it fell apart and I had like my hair. And then you have the pictures all throughout the night and the hair is like a disaster and they're all sweaty. So it's, every area of our career and what we focus on really takes, it takes a lot of effort, and it takes learning the business,
Absolutely. Yeah, you should definitely, if you've got the instruction at school or whatever, and that's great, and you're ready to start doing this, I think it's important to be on a team and try to assist somebody first, or be on a team of other hairstylists for weddings or other makeup artists for weddings, and follow their lead and try to learn that way. Don't just think that you can do everything yourself and be so quick to do that, because sometimes learning that way could be really difficult, and you might end up kind of tripping yourself up, and it might not be pretty. So I think you
are so gentle. You are so gentle. I'll tell you, you are so. If you guys are watching, you definitely would want to work for Daniel versus me. Because I'm like, if you are not coachable and humble, get out of my way.
But I've had those people too.
I've
had them too. I've had them too. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that they want to fly before they could, or what is it? Jump before they can fly. I can't know. I don't know the saying.
Fly before they can jump.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah. I've had those people too, and they're super nice. And I didn't have a problem with their work. Actually, like their work was okay. I already knew what I was getting. Like if they're new, I already knew. Right, that wasn't the problem. The problem was them already kind of like dictating what they should and shouldn't be doing, or kind of like giving advice about other things that really is not of their concern. It's my concern with the client. So
etiquette.
Proper set etiquette, and respecting the fact that you're there because of that person that put you there, that hired you, and namely that would be the client comes first, then me, and then I bring in an assistant. So yeah, it's really important to know your place on set. And yeah, I am saying place. I mean, I'm just being honest. There's a certain way of conducting yourself when you're an assistant, and you could become friends with the person that you're assisting at some point, but don't act like you're friends right away, because there's a certain way of protocol that you have to follow, and that's why you're there to learn as well. It's really important
to be that person's assistant. You're there to be that right-hand person, and you want to be so humble and grateful to have that opportunity, because when they work for someone like you, they're an extension of your reputation. And if they don't hold up to that, it makes you look bad, and they already have jeopardized ever working with you again. And that's the reality of it, because you can't risk having someone that doesn't know how to behave or how to even speak or not speak.
Right.
Because, we've spent too long working to get to where we are. And so you really trust that other person when you're bringing them on. And I think that that's super important, And
you have to adjust yourself to the way that person works too. Not every single artist is going to work the same way, and that's okay. I mean, if you have a problem with something and something really bothers you, if you're an assistant with a certain artist and you're just not gelling with them or not clicking with them, don't assist them. And you should say something as well. It works both ways. But you should definitely understand that everybody works differently. We all have different ways of working, and either you're going to kind of get that and go with the flow, or you're not, and that's okay too. But I mean, but understand that that's part of the business. You know, it's like working with different personalities, you know, different work styles.
Like dating different people.
Yeah, you might not like the way that I prep the skin. Like, you might think that you should do it a different way, but the thing is that when you're assisting that person, you really should be doing it their way if they're telling you to, because that's the formula that works for them. When you're doing your own stuff, you could do it whatever way you want. But when you're assisting somebody else and you're on their platform, you have to have the respect to kind of do things their way, at least in the beginning. And then if you want to eventually go your own way and do it your own way, that's fine. But, you know, just be open to different ways, and not just everything has to also just be one way. So
yeah. And that's, I think, a naivete about the business. And, you know, some people just like to be little know-it-alls, and some people are really like sponges and very appreciative. And
yeah.
And so attitude, you know, for those of you that are starting up in the business, I mean, you may not be the best makeup artist, but if you have a fantastic attitude, you may get further than the person that's actually more talented. I mean, it just really can vary so much. And some people, like, there was makeup artist that I worked with after I had, you know, done department head and keying, and she was actually out of Fort Lauderdale, and I loved assisting with her. I loved it because, you know, she kind of handled all the stuff, and you know, I was just there to just help. And it's like, and she knew my work and I knew her work, and it was just, and when you find that person that you can really work with well, it's like, it makes
Yeah.
it's so, you know, wonderful to work that way. Plus you're learning so much too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So would you like to share a little bit so we can show some of your beautiful work?
You can go either on maybe just the Instagram is better, because I feel like the agency is a whole nother thing that's kind of set up for clients.
Gotcha.
But I am with creative management out of Miami and New York, in case anybody wants to Google the agency. It's called Creative Management. But as far as, you know, let's go ahead and just go on the Instagram if you want.
Okay. Let me go ahead and I'm going to get up here real quick. And yeah, because that's a whole other conversation, getting in with an agency and all of that good stuff. So, okay, here we go. So we are on your page right now. And so, I love this. You have like San Francisco, Spain, Curacao.
Yeah, for different jobs I've done. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. That's beautiful. So and it makes it super fun. And so do you want to share a little bit about kind of what you like to post?
Yeah, I mean, my favorite is beauty, obviously. I think like a lot of the images in my book, that, like, you know, even if you want to post that right there, yeah, there you go. That picture, right? We can start with that picture. So this was shot in LA. And can we see the photographer? I think this says the photographer on the side. Can we see the post? Jen Collins. I think Jen Collins is the photographer that I worked with.
Yes, that's Jen Collins, yeah.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's an up-and-coming beauty photographer she actually lives in San Francisco, but she works a lot in Los Angeles. If you ever get to test with her, I mean, she's amazing. We only worked together one time, but I got some beautiful images from her with this beautiful girl that you see right there in front of you. Yeah. And this was a shoot where we wanted to emphasize color theory and just use colors that obviously correlate with the person's eye color, you know, and skin color. We wanted to use like fiery reds and oranges and yellows to bring out her eyes. And so this is an example of like a beauty that I love that I did. And there was a separate hairstylist. The hairstylist's work didn't feature as well because everything was so close up. Sometimes that happens, but it ended up working for me for makeup. So Yeah, and this is something that I did in LA for my portfolio. Nobody paid for my flight. You know, I paid for my flight to go to LA. And that's the thing that sometimes you have to do in this business to build your book. And even the people that have been doing this for like ages, that have done the cover of, you know, Vogue and all that kind of stuff, they will still do something for their portfolio like this, a whole team for free, take a whole day and do this, because not only is it what we love doing, but this is what's going to get us work also. So I've booked clients from stuff like this who look at the skin and said, you know what, I booked you on this because I saw how well you do skin. Not even just the amazing color story going on. It wasn't even just for that. I mean, I've obviously had compliments for that as well. And there's different people that will take notice of that. Maybe more my peers and people that are maybe looking for that exact thing. Like, let's say a cosmetic company or something, a cosmetic brand, if they're going to consider hiring me for something. But in this particular instance, the first thing that a client will look at is the skin.
There you are.
Yeah, sorry about that. The battery is getting a little low on this thing. I'm going to see if I can plug it back in. Sorry.
Sure. Well, this is gorgeous. I love this. And you know, that is one of the things I think as a makeup artist, wanting to do such fun projects and different projects, they're not paid projects. You know, they're like you said, they're projects that you are collabing with a photographer and a hairstylist, and, you know, maybe a designer, and they're projects that you are doing for you. But do you want to share a little bit about how you came up with the concept, or was it already a concept that they had created?
We wanted to do looks that kind of were color inspired, I'd say. You know, there was some color theory involved, but I would say we wanted to do nothing too edgy, too strong, just to focus on color, right? So I can, if we scroll on the Instagram, I might be able to show you like maybe a couple other images from this exact same shoots. If you want to go down. I know there's a lot of images, so.
Is there this one here?
So you can go down. No, you can go down for a while. Yeah, you can keep going down for a while, because this is from a while back.
Okay.
But I'll show you. Another one.
You just tell me when.
Yeah, no, you can keep going. You can keep
going.
And that's good, because they can see the other stuff too while you're doing that.
Yes. And I have to say, that's like all women.
Yeah, only a few guys here and there. I work on mostly women. I mean, I do. Right, but there's another one with the different makeup. That's just the same makeup but flipped. So there's another one that has. Yeah, you got to keep going. Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, I do grooming on guys too, but because I don't do them as often, I don't always post them. I post more. Oh, you know what? So go up. You went too far. I think you went too far. Yeah, because that was the original. That's the original post right there. Yeah, that was the original post. That's the literal behind the scenes of the makeup. So you can see how it's not very different. Obviously, they're retouching sometimes, but look at her skin. I mean, the girls had it was just a pleasure to work on skin like that as a makeup artist, you know?
Oh yeah.
And you can tell the colors. I mean, it was great. But yeah, so let's go a little above this now, and I think there's going to be another image with blue, which I got a lot of likes on Insta. There we go. You just hit it. Yep. Here we go. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So yeah, so obviously there was color theory used in here as well. If you can tell, I used a little bit of a lighter blue and then a gold, and then the deeper, I guess more of like that royal blue to create the shape in the eye. So this was just with Jen Collins as well on the same shoots. And the hairstylist here was Ashley H., which is a phenomenal hairstylist that's based in LA. She was the hairstylist that day. And yeah, so we just had fun. It was kind of like a free-for-all, There was a couple other looks that were done that probably didn't make the cut. There was a green look that I kind of didn't, I mean, it was okay. It wasn't bad, but I just didn't love it. I thought these were stronger. And then there's one next to it that's a little bit more pink. I don't know if you want to show that.
This one here?
Yeah.
That's
you know,
beautiful.
and then, yeah, here her hair showed a lot more. You could see the beautiful job she did on hair. That's Ashley H's hair. And then the whole point of this one was just like a pastel mauve, pastel pink, you know, on the lips and on the eyes, which
Yeah.
complemented her. And that was the first look. So we went from this to all, you know, the other looks that we did.
Gotcha.
But I get work from this image.
Oh,
You know?
I'm sure.
So
Now, I have a question for you from a technique standpoint. Did you build upon this look to create the other ones, or did you remove and start new?
okay, so when you're using more exact colors, you know, where you really want the saturation of that particular color to stand out, you're better off by removing what you did and then putting a different color on. And I tell you that because when you zoom in on beauty, you always see remnants of something else left over. So if you want to avoid that and you want your makeup to look like a clean beginning to end that you did in each image, you want to definitely remove as much as you can and then build the color back over it that you're trying to show. So that was really important in this, because if I wouldn't have done that, you know, I've done that where I build in other situations, but there are situations where it really matters that you're taking off, because you're either going to show a whole new texture on the eye or on the lips or on the face or whatever it is that you're doing, or the color itself has to look fresh and not look like you're, you know, showing another remnants of something else that you did.
Yeah.
So it's really important. So
great feedback. Yeah, that's wonderful. Okay, so
and that's the same image there, the one with the eyes closed. That's the same makeup, but she just has her eyes closed with the lips, the orange and the yeah. But I love that beauty story. I think that was an awesome beauty story.
It really is.
It wasn't published. It wasn't published, but it's still great. I mean, I've gotten work from it. So that's the thing. Your work doesn't always have to be published either. If it's something that you believe in and it's masterfully done by a team, by the team, you should definitely use it in your book. It doesn't have to always be published. So
fantastic. And when did you do that? How long ago was that?
Oh, that was at least 4 years ago now.
Okay. And so you're still using it too. Like you know, you have that content to continue to. Great. Okay, so we were going to go up to, there was one that you and I had, is that the same girl there too? Or
no, that's a different girl.
That's this girl. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's the same, right? That's the same girl. Yep.
Yes. Okay. Let's see here. There was the one that we were talking about before that you were going to share. This is so much fun talking to you. Oh my gosh. And I was looking at your site while we were getting ready for this, and you had one that had these glasses that was phenomenal. I don't know if you remember that shot, but okay. So huh?
On the site, you said there was something on the site?
Yeah, on the drip book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did you want to go to the? Did you want to go to the?
No, I want to. Yeah, let's talk about this one. I just wanted to tell you. So you were going to tell us about this project that you did here, and this was for Glamour.
So this is for Glamour Bulgaria. It was shot in Miami. It was for Glamour Bulgaria. We did this editorial. Oh my God, back maybe. It got published in April of 2020, and I think we might have done it like 5 months before, like 4 or 5 months before we all worked on it. And this girl is amazing girl that happened to be in Miami. She signed with the lead in Miami, but she's really a New York girl. She's European. We were lucky to get her. I mean, she's like 5'11". She's the perfect example of a fashion model. Yeah. She is a fashion model. And what's interesting about this was that, I mean, I love this image. I love the direction that it went in. But when we first started the shoots, we did maybe 3 or 4 shots at this location. We were working on this wall. You can't see the wall here, obviously. It's different. We ended up putting fabric behind her for this. But we were working on a really cool wall that had like a really cool trim, and it had like white going along the trim, and it's an haute couture. Oscar, I believe the name of the store is Oscar Caravallo Paris, something like that. Okay. And he's a Miami designer, and he's amazing. He does like these amazing couture gowns and dresses, and she was wearing some of them, but we had the hair down. We had kind of like this, almost like a wet look, but it wasn't wet. It was done with, you know, products like hairspray. Mm-hmm. And I didn't do the hair. I did the makeup for this shoot. And then a friend of mine, Autumn Suna, she did the hair. She did a great job. We started out with this hair down and with some of the dresses, but then it started looking like a lookbook. And a lookbook is something that a client does to sell their, you know, their clothing, like for like, let's say that season, the dresses that are going to be coming out or whatever, or the clothes that are going to be coming out. They do something where the model kind of just stands there the whole time in the same spot. You know, does a little bit of a difference, but basically she's in the same spot and you keep shooting over and over with different clothes. So there was not really a feeling, you know, it was kind of just like, this is starting to feel like a lookbook. So we already did like 4 shots doing this, and we all looked at each other and we said, this isn't working. We need to change something. So that's when we had another makeup inspiration, another idea from Fashion Week in Europe. And there was something similar where there was a powdery blue shadow on the girl's eye and a winged liner. But of course, everybody's eye shape is different. So you have to taper the makeup to the person's eye shape. So I did the makeup according to her. In the other model, they had put the original inspiration that we were looking at. They had put that thing, you know, like the thing that stretches the eyes back, that kind of lifts them. Camera. For some reason, I'm having a blank on the name of it.
Yeah, they're like a little. They're called wings, I think, that you tape them back, like the little tape.
Right. So the original inspiration, the girl had more of a cat-eyed look anyway than our model, and so they had that on her, which made it even more extreme. And they just did like this really, like a lot more extreme liner, which is beautiful. But it only would have worked if you would have had that stuff on her face, you know. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have that, so I wanted to work within the dimension or the, you know, the shape and the size of her eye. So I was very careful. Once I put the blue base on and the blue shadow that I used, I was really careful to just draw the right shape of cat eye. There's another shot in here that shows the makeup as well, if you want to go to it. I think it's next to it. So you can kind of look at the makeup, and I'm proud to say the makeup wasn't retouched at all. You can look at this one right here if you want. Yeah, either that one or the one where she's next to it in the clothes. This one right here. Yeah, right there. There you go. And if you zoom in, I mean, I tried to do as best as I could with the liner.
I don't think I can.
Oh, you can't zoom in. I'm sorry. So let's go back to the one that you did go to. Okay, here we go. Perfect. Yeah. This is a great beauty shot anyway. So that beautiful works. Yeah. So you know, as far as I can see, the most of the makeup is intact. It wasn't retouched. I mean, I know I took a lot of precision to do that liner. So yeah. So and that's the funny thing. It's like you think that you're doing something really, really extreme, because when I applied it on her and you looked at it, it looked super extreme. But then you see it in the photograph, and it looks like just a really, really well done wing. But it's not super crazy. You know. Yeah. So that's the thing. Another fun thing is that I made her super white. She was tan. So yeah, she had her, you know, her face was a little lighter than her body, but she still had a golden undertone. So I had to like pack on a lot of porcelain foundation and make her look glowy, because we wanted to make her look super, super porcelain. So that was fun to do for this particular editorial as well.
That is great. Now, one thing I notice on here, because now I love period work. That's like my thing. I love it. I love the very, like, that is a very 1960s kind of robin's egg blue that is, and a matte as well. And I love how you incorporate, and I'm assuming you know, but of course this is my interpretation of looking at your work. I love how you incorporate like that feel of vintage with, it looks like she has no lashes, like no false lashes on, and then that very modern brow.
Right. So I did take I did make the effort to really groom the brows. She had a product in them to really groom them and make them stand out like that. And then as far as I'm sorry, what else did you say about it that you liked? Oh yeah,
I
you're
don't see
correct.
like
She
any
had
false
no
lashes.
lashes.
Yeah.
You're absolutely correct. She did have mascara on, but no lashes. Because if you see how small her eye shape is, it's not totally small, but if I would have put lashes on her, it would have taken away from the shape of what we did with the blue, and it would have taken away the liner. So when you want those accent things to stand out in your makeup, you have to keep in mind that sometimes lashes work against you, and they close the eye. Actually, they take away from the work that you put in. Even though they might look sexy and glamorous and all that, they don't always work for editorial makeup.
I love that. I love that. This is such great information because, you know, lashes, everybody's got like whoosh, crazy lashes on.
Right. And I love lashes. Don't get me wrong. I love lashes for the right type of makeup. I think that they're a booster. They make a difference. But the precision about when you decide to put the, you know, like the knowledge of when to put them on and how to put them on and in the corner, or what, you know, if you're going to cut them and put like three different pieces and make them look cohesive, or do individuals versus a strip, all that stuff matters when you're executing a makeup. So you have to really pay attention to that and say, you know, what is it that I'm trying to do here with her eyes? Do I want to make her eyes look bigger? You know, every makeup is different, and you really should pay attention to what the lashes are doing to your makeup once you put them on. You have to think about that.
Yes, I agree. And that's, I think, the beauty of your work, that you have such an eye for detail and precision, that's what makes you so, you know, so great.
Well, I really appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
I do. And I love seeing your posts. I mean, there's just, and what I love about your work is that you have so many different, I can't look at something and go, Daniel did that, you know, like, you know how just sometimes like they're just kind of pigeonholed with the same look. You have a very, you know, a huge variety. I do see, like, definitely I would say maybe skin is probably a bit.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say that too. Yeah, I love the skin to look luminous and glowy, and that was before Instagram made it cool.
Yeah.
I always loved that. You know, that was just my thing. And people would always comment when I would do the makeup. They would always be like, "Does she have foundation on?" Like some of the photographers that were used to working with other makeup artists that would put so much on. And I remember when I first started testing, they were like, "Does she have foundation on?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they would kind of like stare at her, like to make sure like I was telling the truth, because the skin looked so natural that it's like, it was so funny. And I remember like thinking like that, why do they keep asking me that? And then I realized that everybody else that they were working with was putting the makeup on so heavy or so much foundation that they were just like shocked that I was able to do it and not put so much on.
Yeah.
So it was interesting.
And you can definitely see that. And that is not, again, you know, like you said, it's so funny that, you know, of course, like Kim Kardashian kind of like brought highlight and contour to the mainstream, but that has existed forever, highlighting
forever.
As a makeup artist.
What I feel, and not at all knocking it at all or anything, because every makeup style has a place in our universe and everything. But what we're seeing is either theatrical techniques that have been around for years being brought into the mainstream, and also drag makeup, which should be celebrated as well. I think drag makeup is some of the most beautiful makeup. You know, it's amazing. It's imaginative. You know, it's creative. So yeah, what we're seeing is a lot of like the tricks and tips that drag queens got from theater. Because I think it started out in theater first, and then a lot of drag queens made it their own, and then now we've seen it become, you know, come to life in everyday makeup, in glamorous makeup. You know, so yeah, so it's really cool. It's interesting how all that you know, transpires.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just, it's funny a lot of times, because you see what I see at least is, when you learn, a lot of, younger aspiring artists, they can't see the subtlety yet. So it's a lot of product, a lot of shimmer, a lot.
Yeah.
And and you want to use that technique and take it to where you're at. That's what is masterful to me. Being able, like, even as simple as this shot here. I mean, I think that that's just gorgeous. It's a look like, it looks like she has nothing on. I mean, you can still see the subtlety of the skin itself, but you have contour, highlight.
Yeah, she has all that. She has all that.
Everything.
It's just done in a certain way where I didn't want it to look like a glam beat. I wanted it to look like a softer editorial. Like I'm telling a story with her face versus I'm just gonna beat her for the nightclub. You know what I mean? So which is nothing wrong with that too. I love all that too, but there's a time and place for it.
Yes. And what is so interesting, and maybe you can share with me a little bit here, I love, is that you have, like, if you were to separate from the neck up and then from the neck down, you have this, pointy, cyber boob, athleisure wear kind of outfit.
And that's exactly what it was called, Editorial. It's funny that you said that. It was athleisure. Yeah. Yeah, this is the one for Elle, Serbia. Yeah, and I didn't do the hair. There was a phenomenal hair artist on this shoot that did such an amazing job with the hair.
Oh yeah.
I did the makeup. But and again, the photographer, basically his instruction was, we ended up doing a little bit more of a graphic eye, which it's up to you if you want to show that image as well for later on.
Okay.
But his direction was, I want her super dewy, super glowy, but it's going to be on the beach and she's going to be exercising. So the makeup can't be overly done or too much. And I didn't want to do too much of a wing on her either. I did a soft wing. You probably can't see it here, but I did a little bit of a red coppery wing, but I still kept it kind of muted. I didn't want to take away. I didn't want it to, like, with all the shapes and all the things going on, I felt, and such strong hair, I didn't want to, like, make it look overworked and complicated.
And strong brow.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't, I chose to kind of keep it glowy and beautiful, but not overly done.
I love that. Beautiful. So yes, so there's so much that goes into each image and the thought process. Would you say that does it happen more organically while you're working, or do you create a mood board, or how, or does it depend on the project?
Okay, so when I do a beauty shoot, there's always a mood board, or even an editorial. Everything I do, there's always a mood board. Somebody sets out a mood board. Either it's me, the photographer, the wardrobe stylist, whoever comes up with it in the first place. We get together, sometimes you have a say in the mood board. Sometimes you have no say whatsoever. You have to follow their thing, what they want. For editorials and things like that, or for a client even on a job, they'll have a mood board and you have to follow that mood board. So I don't always have a say. I could say what I want to say, but it doesn't mean that, what I want is going to be always what's listened to. But in a lot of the beauty things I do, I have a big say. I would say that for a lot of the beauty, not always the editorials, but for the beauty, I have a big say because I'm usually the one that comes to them with an idea, and then we kind of shoot it. So I would say I have a say for the beauty stuff.
That's great. Cool. So I wanted to just kind of finish off with, what would you share with someone getting into the business that wanted to, what advice do you have for somebody that wants to get into the business and do what you do?
Okay, so my advice would be, start as early as possible. Don't wait because, the reality is that we're all getting older. We all, seize the opportunity. Start, the younger you are, the better. That's what I would tell my younger self. I would say really focus on what you want to do. Be realistic about what it takes to do what you want to do. If you need to move and be in a different city to do like big fashion work and editorial work and all that, or theater, whatever it is that you want to pursue, you should make the effort to move there and to go after that. That's really what you want to do. If you're comfortable just, doing weddings and just in your community and where you live and all that, then that's fine. But be aware that you're probably not going to get to that next level unless you make some sacrifices and you go after it. So you have to just definitely be knowledgeable about where you want to be in this business. Am I living in the right place? So what is it exactly that I want to go after? What are my goals? What do I want to accomplish? This is a journey, not a destination, I feel, in this business. So that's really important. Mm-hmm. And assist other people. I mean, and be open to learning. Definitely don't come in with the attitude that you know it all, because you're going to be shown that you don't right away. Mm-hmm. Especially when it goes to working on a set. Working on a set for a client is completely different than just doing makeup for whoever. You know what I mean? Or you have to respect the business and respect the process. So my advice would be definitely to assist, definitely to start. The sooner the better. Reach out to modeling agencies if you haven't done that already, and tell them that you want to test. And it's normal not to get paid right away. So don't think that you're entitled or that you're privileged to get paid right away, because they don't have to pay you. You're the one that needs them more than they need you. You're the one that's trying to get in. So unfortunately, that's how the fashion business works. Some people right there, they're going to be like, you know what, then screw that. I'm not going to do this. Well, okay, fine. But the reality is, a lot of people that work in the fashion industry, we do a lot of things for free because we want our names published and we want to get press our whatever way we can. We want to get, we're hungry, starving artists, and we want to feed our soul. And they know that.
Oh, they know that. And it's about relationships, don't you think?
Oh, for sure.
It's getting to know those people that have already put in the time.
Yeah.
And the money.
I mean, the amount of time, I'll just give you, okay, so like the amount, because I know we're kind of recapping for now, but for me, the amount of time that I spent working on a book before I got with an agency was a good, really like 10 years, before I got signed to an agency. So wow. I put in 10 years of hardcore getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 a.m. to go to the beach to do some, and I would do all these photo shoots, and sometimes I got paid, sometimes I didn't in the very beginning, but you know what? I was so passionate. And then I would have friends that would say, how did you do that? How, like other makeup artists that I knew for a long time that I started out, let's say, working in retail with, and they would be like, how did you get with an agency? How do you have, and I go, well, I have a book. I spent time, doing a book. And that's why I was able to get into an agency board and have clients book me based on the work that I did, because I put the effort into it. You can't expect to get the jobs that another person's getting that because you just like what, you just like it. No, you got to put the effort into it. So, I mean, that's what I had to do. And that's, I mean, it was blood, blood, sweat, and tears for like 10 years of, and then those images didn't come like from one day to the next. No, it was a lot of work, and it's still a lot of work. I'm not done,
Well, don't you think that with, like you were saying, I mean, granted, your work is very timeless. So you're able to use those pictures from 4 years ago and still post them. They're relevant. But how often does that happen? A lot of times in fashion.
Right. And that's, right? and that's correct. And that's because it's really important, like what photographers you work with, to that when you make something look period, it's still a modern take on something period, where somebody could just be like, wow, that's really cool. It doesn't really look like it's just from that era, or it's, it's got to be cool. So, you got to pay attention to the people that you work with to see if they have the same vision as you. And that takes time. It's not going to be overnight. It takes time. And then once you build a relationship, like you said, I work with certain photographers, and then I know I can go to them for this. And then there might be a photographer that I think I can work with to capture this idea more.
So it all, it's all relevant to your process, to the process, and working and, getting things done.
That's amazing. You are a wealth of knowledge. A wealth of knowledge, and very, very generous with, like sharing, and you're just kind. You really are, Daniel. So it's been such an honor and a pleasure to be able to interview you and have you as my guest.
Thank you so much.
So appreciate it. Yes. Thank you.